Good afternoon and welcome back to the Bellingham City Council Committee meetings. Today is still April 12th, 2021. And this afternoon, starting at 1 p.m., we have our next committee meeting, which is Parks and Recreation, which is chaired by Council Member Knutson. So I'll turn it over to him.
Thank you very much, Council President Stone. We have one item. It's amendment to lease agreement 2014-0592 with Bellingham Technical College to control parking lot due to safety concerns. With me on the committee today are Council Members Vargas and Anderson. So I'll turn it over to Nicole.
Thank you, Council Member Knutson. We're here today to talk about one way that we can address some of the ongoing problems that we're having at Maritime Park, specifically at the Bellingham Technical College Fisheries Program. And I have Al Jensen here with me, who's going to give you some additional details. Over the past 2 years, especially in the last 2 years, we've been working with BTC and the Bellingham Police Department to address some of the issues of crime and homelessness in the north section of the park. In those 2 years, we've had 20 significant calls to 911 that resulted in a report. Recently, this activity has increased to the point where it's become a serious safety issue for the employees and the students in this program. The college has documented many incidents that have occurred in and around the Perry Center, ranging from physical attacks, threats of aggression, increased garbage and drug needles, vehicles using the parking lot for overnight camping. They've had some vandalism, break-ins. It's been pretty tough, and they have tried multiple different ways that Al can talk about a little bit to address these issues. Our educational tours and school groups have been discontinued because of the safety concerns. BTC is proposing to install a drop arm security gate and keypad to help control access to the parking lot. Right now, the lease includes the parking lot. So this will be, and the lease also requires public access to the parking lot. This will limit public access to only those times that we have a special program or work with the BTC to allow the public or perhaps a tour or educational events to happen. So 5.2 of the lease states that the parking area is available for use by BTC, the city, and the public. This will eliminate that public parking. The public will still have pedestrian access, and we also are talking about potentially adding a fence along D Street, but we haven't gotten there yet, to further restrict this really difficult and safety concerns that are happening in the park. We're all in support of this. We had a unanimous support from the park board. They're very concerned about making sure this program is safe and can be successful. And their BTC would cover all the expenses, permitting and installation, with the thought that we would complete this project by June. So I'm going to turn it over to Al Jensen.
Thank you very much, Nicole. And council members, thank you for the invitation to address you on this issue today. Over the past year or so, the situation down at Maritime Heritage, or we call Perry Center, has just got increasingly worse. Right now, we're sitting on over 1 million chum salmon sitting in our pond and 500,000 Chinook salmon sitting in our pond. All it's going to take is 1 cup of bleach that somebody throws in there, and every one of those fish will have to be destroyed, or they will die with it. And here lately, some of the things that have happened, we have a certain, the Fish and Wildlife Commission is requiring us to do some treatment to some of the fish that are growing. We put these pumps out twice. People have come up and tried to steal the pumps as they're running. We've got to the point we now have hired a local security company, and I have a uniformed security officer on campus from 7 in the morning till 3 in the afternoon, 5 days a week, strictly to make sure that our students and staff are safe. Just 2 weeks ago, one of our staff members was down there on a Saturday. Luckily, she had her husband with them. They were trying to, because the fish have to be fed every 2 hours. A transient chased her back into the building. Luckily, her husband was strong enough to be able to block the doorway, and so they couldn't get in. As that result, we don't allow anybody down there by themselves. They have to be in a buddy system. We've moved all of our stores and supplies from the back of the building to the front of the building with it, and we've changed those hours around. Right as of this morning, it looked like we had 4 tents moved out and 2 more moved in. I have 2 vehicles that are basically there 24 hours, 7 days a week in our parking lot, letting their dogs loose. That's not even counting the campers that are on the perimeter area of the park. Earlier this month, we were actually doing some spawning this chum salmon out, and at one point, as fast as we would throw them into a tote, somebody would come down and try to steal one. We had kids the students were in the water. One of the campers up above turned his pit bull loose with it, so we took some extra security precautions there. So what we're looking at right now is to change the lease and put the parking lot under our control. We've designed a drop-down gate. It's just be a singular tube-type gate, and installing electronic keypad on the outside of the gate coming up on C Street. That way, all the students will either do it by a code or prox card. Codes will be issued to the fire department, police department, medics, like we do other places. And then the exit would be done by a pressure pad. So yes, what it will do is limit the public parking in the parking lot. It's not going to really limit public access to the park. We plan on keeping at least part of the fence line open. There's plenty of avenues to get in there. We know this is for the first year is probably going to upset some of the fishermen with it when the runs come in. But quite frankly, I seriously doubt whether that creek's going to open up again this year. It's been closed for the last year and a half, and by all indications right now, with the chum run, that is being very productive on increasing the run with it. So, but even if it does get open, you'll be able to access that right there. Parking on C Street is now set at 8 hours, so there's plenty of parking there. We've just got to figure out some way to protect our students from it. I've had them chase their cars. I've put new rules in effect. They have to do a buddy system. They're not allowed outside unless they're in a buddy system. The security guard now escorts them to their cars. We're coming into the spring and the summer area where our students will be spending 90% of their classrooms outside. So I need to protect them. It's too bad that our first year students, the first 2 classes they have to take now is the proper handling of disposed hypodermic needles and how to properly dispose of human waste. That's the first 2 mandatory classes with it. It's getting to the point now that we're getting stuff thrown in the ponds. So we've netted every pond. Here in the next couple weeks, probably, we're going to be installing some temporary fencing around the ponds. The Tribal Council of Fisheries is willing to give us a new piece of equipment that runs about $2 million to $3 million. It will be able to defin the fish through this thing. Otherwise, you do them by hand with little tiny scissors with them. But they've made it very clear to us that if we cannot guarantee them protection of that piece of equipment, they will not bring it down with it. And it's really important, especially for the Chinook salmon. This is one of the first times that we've been allowed to rear Chinook salmon, and we hope that this one is going to start a new run of Chinooks, which is the main feeding source for the orcas out of Whatcom Creek, which would be just unbelievable. That's been 100 years since that run came through. So these are long-range plans, but this is the first step that I think we can take to at least get that parking lot so I don't have campers and trucks and everything else set up in there. It's just not safe for my students.
Okay, thank you, Al. Committee members? Lisa? Councilmember Anderson? Unmute yourself there, kid.
Darn it. Taking my hand down. I do have a couple of questions, but one, well, first a statement. I fully support this. I work in higher education, and reading some of the contents about the safety and some of the situations that have happened with faculty and staff is just really not tolerable, nor the type of environment we want to create for a learning environment, let alone just general safety of these community members. So I'm glad this is a first step. I imagine there'll be a few more steps coming. But one of the questions, the design of the gate that comes down, it's a keypad, and I noticed that you could have multiple key codes to be able to get in, but to exit, is it a motion detector or is it based on weight? Because my concern is if it's not based on weight and it's motion detector, what prevents someone from getting out of a vehicle, going to the other side, activating it so the arm comes up?
No, it's designed, we're looking at it as a weight-based pressure pad with it. It'll be put back away from the gate with it, so there has to be somebody in the parking lot.
Councilmember Vargas?
Thanks, Al. That was very disturbing. And this is a wonderful program. And obviously we want to support this. And I know that this has been a safety issue and the police department has really tried and it's been very unsuccessful. And we need to look for some more solutions in regards to safety. So I absolutely support this. I think losing a little bit of access for the public is a small price to pay for us to ensure that everybody has a safe work environment for the students, for the faculty, but also, you know, there's too much at risk here in regards to also for the salmon. And so I think it's really important that we try and find solutions. And if we have to put a fence up at D Street, you know, that as well. I mean, right now, I think that we're at a critical point with having that many salmon and students under such duress. So whatever we can do to support the sustainability of this program and the safety of everyone, I fully support that.
Okay, any other council members? Councilmember Anderson?
Thank you. I did have one more question. In regards to public access during the times that when the fishing run opens up, is there any possibility to be able to allow the parking lot to be utilized during certain days or time periods if we find that parking is not sufficient along some of the side streets?
Yes, we can evaluate that. And if there's during the fishing season, if we have certain events down there, we will have it open. A lot of times during that season, hopefully we're going to get back to class education. The problem is just it's been suggested we leave it open during the day and just close it at night. But these cars slip in there. We had a guy here a few weeks ago. I mean, he came in and unloaded a camper within 10 minutes, and within a half hour, he had a fortress built. And it took us a week and a half to get him out of there. I mean, they just show up.
My primary concern would be during just for accessibility for some individuals to be able to have that close parking. But it would be just if the run's open, if we can take a look at that, that would be, I think, beneficial and ease some of the concerns from the public about their accessibility during those fishing times.
Correct. And I've been working with Public Works on it. We changed the number of hours of parking on C Street. They're behind Parbury's, and I think it's a 6-hour one now. And that's the ideal way the gate is designed. It has that pedestrian access right there. So they're basically closer to the fishing grounds by parking there than they are parking in the parking lot. So, but we'll make sure that the fishermen have access.
Councilmember Stone?
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. I know I don't serve on this committee, but thank you to Mr. Jensen for sharing your experiences. But like Councilmember Vargas said, it's extremely disturbing. And my concern is whether or not this gate, I mean, I understand you've said that this is perhaps, you know, one step, but the experiences that you've shared with us, I guess my concern is, you know, what impact this gate will have and what the next step, you know, would be or what the city can do. Obviously, this is, you know, neighbors on the park or is, you know, located there at Maritime Heritage. And with the growing public health and safety concerns, I'm not satisfied, I guess, voting to say yes to this and then turning to the next subject, because I'm concerned that we definitely need to be doing more. So I don't know if you have any insight into what those next steps may be.
Yes, what we've been doing is trying to monitor. There's another hatchery in the state of Washington system down in Issaquah that's pretty well the same situation. not actually on parklands, but right downtown in the city. They've done a really good job of enclosing theirs, and then they took the enclosures and turned it into an educational portion of their program and had signs on it. One wall, it's an art project with it. And yeah, we're probably going to end up having to do more because, and it's not just because of the issues that we have there, more and more requirements are being put on us by our partners with the State Fish and Wildlife Department, ecology, the salmon enhancement programs that are there. We have the Lummi Tribe on our board of trustee or advisory board, and also members now of the Pacific Northwest Tribal Coalition for salmon reenhancement. So yeah, I think part of that is going to be forced upon us to make sure the ponds are protected with it. So this is just the first step to try to at least protect the parking lot, and then we're going to have to build from there. I mean, we've constantly made some things. We've torn down all the shelters over our ponds, our rearing ponds. It used to be, we had a little shelter. You could come down there and sit and watch the salmon come up the ladders. We've had to tear that down. We've netted every pond so that no one can throw things in there, climb in there, snag fish out of there. So we're making those changes that are still aesthetically pleasing with it. And as we move forward, we're taking all that into consideration as to make sure that public access and the look of this thing, that this can be a pride of the city still with it. And we're growing differently. I mean, we're now into, I mean, the hatchery, when I first started, I can remember going down there at night and it was just a few fish. I mean, we're into the oyster production now. We're into green algae production, multi-types of different fish. We're dealing with all sorts of different things that we never even thought of before. So yeah, we're going to change as it goes. But no, I'll be perfectly honest. I mean, this isn't the one-all solution to all of our issues, but it's a start.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve the amendment? Councilmember Anderson.
Move approval.
Okay, Councilmember Anderson made the motion to move approval. Is there any other discussion by any other council member? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, motion carried unanimously. I'll report that out tonight. Thank you, Nicole. Thank you, Al. And
Thank you.
We'll bring this forward tonight. End of committee.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.